One of the hardest pills to swallow as a man is realizing that your logical approach doesn't work in emotional territory. You keep trying to make sense of her reactions by lining things up, breaking them down, and presenting your case like it's a debate. You genuinely believe that if you just find the right words, the right tone, the right structure, she'll finally get it. But she won't, not because she doesn't want to understand, and not because she lacks intelligence, but because her emotions operate on a completely different wavelength. What feels confusing or exaggerated to you feels absolutely real to her. She's not looking for facts, she's navigating feelings. That's a truth most men struggle with, especially the ones who are grounded, logical, and results-oriented. You think that being calm and clear will fix things. That if you can just make her see the situation from your perspective, everything will settle. But emotional conflict doesn't respond to logic. It responds to energy, to presence, to how she feels in your company. When she's emotionally activated, trying to explain your way out only makes things worse. She doesn't hear your logic as help, she hears it as invalidation. And that's why your attempts to fix, to clarify, to stabilize are met with more resistance, more distance, and sometimes even more chaos. You're left wondering how a well-meaning conversation turned into another argument, but she's not reacting to the words. She's reacting to the emotional dissonance. To her, your rational calm can feel cold, even cruel. She needs to feel seen, not instructed. She needs to feel safe, not managed. And until you understand that her emotional world isn't a puzzle to solve, but a current to ride, you'll keep losing battles you didn't even know you were fighting. You believe that your calmness should de-escalate the situation, that your ability to stay composed is a strength. And in many ways, it is. But when a woman is in an emotional state, that same calmness can feel like distance. It can feel like you don't care. You're standing there, grounded and quiet, thinking you're doing the right thing, trying to bring reason into chaos. But from her perspective, you're checked out. You're unavailable, you're cold. This is the disconnect. You're trying to fix the emotional storm with silence and logic. While she's begging to be felt and understood, she's not asking you to solve the problem, she's asking you to join her emotionally, to recognize her feelings without immediately trying to change them. You think you're offering stability. She feels abandonment. You think your stillness is strength. She reads it as rejection. And the more you try to maintain your composure, the more isolated she feels in her own emotional reality. You want to help, but your tools don't work in her world. She's drowning in feelings, and you're throwing her a manual instead of a lifeline. You don't realize it, but in moments where you think you're helping the most by being logical and restrained, you might be hurting her the most. Not by action, but by absence. She needs to know you feel her, not fix her. She needs connection, not correction. Emotional leadership isn't about staying neutral. It's about stepping into her emotional storm without losing your center. Not to rescue her, not to control her, but to let her feel safe enough to come back to herself. That's where trust is built. Not in perfect answers, but in shared emotional space. You sit there wondering how it all went wrong. You were loyal. You provided, you stayed consistent. You didn't lie, cheat, or run. You thought that by showing up every day, by staying grounded, by doing what a man is supposed to do, that it would be enough. But somehow, she still drifted, still pulled away, still said things like, I just don't feel it anymore. And that's the part that leaves you stunned. You think, how can she feel this way when I did everything right? But here's the truth, that stings her feelings or her reality. And no matter how solid your actions were, if she felt emotionally neglected, bored, or unseen, then in her mind, you failed. She's not going to sit down and run an audit of the relationship. She's not going to weigh the pros and cons the way you do. She's not going to check if her emotional state is fair, accurate, or rooted in facts. She's just going to follow what she feels. That's how women operate. Her emotions tell the story, not your actions. Even if the story is shaped by her past, by her trauma, by her internal confusion, it's still real to her. And that's what she responds to. You're connecting dots with logic. She's riding waves with emotion. You're thinking in straight lines, cause and effect. She's moving in circles, feeling and reaction. That's why when she says, something feels off, you're left speechless, because you can't see what she sees. But she doesn't need you to understand it logically. She needs you to accept that, in her world, emotion is the compass. And until you see that her feelings dictate her reality, you'll keep speaking different languages, each convinced the other is wrong. You're sitting there, confused, wondering why she keeps bringing up the same issue you thought was already resolved. To you, it's over. It was talked about, handled, maybe even apologized for. But to her, it's not closed, not because you missed a step in logic, but because her emotions haven't been fully processed. This is where men often feel trapped in a loop, stuck repeating the same conversations, defending themselves again and again. You don't understand why she keeps reopening old wounds, but to her, they never really closed. You see the issue as a task that was completed. She sees it as an emotion that never got its full release. Resolution to her isn't about having the last word or even being right. It's about feeling seen, felt, and emotionally validated. Until she gets that releasant, and she feels heard at a deep, intuitive level, she keeps circling back. This is why peaceful moments can suddenly turn into emotional flashbacks. Why small triggers set off what seems like outsized reactions. She's not intentionally starting drama. She's subconsciously seeking closure through expression. You keep trying to shut the door with reason. But she needs the door to stay open until she's emptied what's inside. This is why she tests you when things seem calm. She wants to know the peace is real. She wants to know if the emotional ground is solid or just temporarily quiet. She's not looking to argue. She's checking for depth, for presence, for reassurance that you're still emotionally available. That's the difference. You seek peace through silence. She seeks peace through connection. Until she feels safe emotionally, nothing will ever truly feel resolved. No matter how many times you think you've fixed it. The harsh truth most men have to face is this. Logic and emotion speak to completely different languages. Your logic wants to bring order, reason, clarity. Her emotions are seeking connection, intensity, safety, even chaos if it brings emotional release. So while you're approaching problems with a blueprint and a calm tone, she's immersed in a feeling that demands expression, not explanation. You think you're helping by staying composed, by breaking things down into steps. But what she wants isn't a solution. She wants to feel you present in the moment, engaged in her emotional reality, not standing outside of it looking in. Emotion doesn't ask, is this true? It asks, how does this feel? And if the feeling is heavy, uncertain, or insecure, it doesn't matter how rational your case is, she won't hear it. That's why she can seem completely irrational in arguments. Why she can be emotional about something that happened a year ago. Why she can change her tone based on a look you gave, not a word you said. She's not calculating like you are. She's sensing, reading the energy, the vibe, the subtleties. And when the emotional current doesn't match what she needs, she reacts. This is the core of emotional polarity. You bring structure, she brings movement. You bring logic, she brings depth. But the mistake is trying to dominate her emotion with intellect. It doesn't work. What does work is presence. The ability to feel her chaos without losing your center. To meet her emotion with grounded energy, not resistance. To understand that she doesn't want to be corrected, she wants to be felt. That's emotional leadership. Not to overpower, not to outtalk, but to anchor. That's what makes her trust you. Not your logic, but your ability to hold space for her emotions without flinching.